Okay.
Are we live?
Hello. Yes, we're live. Y'all got me again, so welcome to the circle. This is the new chapter of Joshua Generation. We're glad that you're in person with us, and we're glad that we're informal here. And we're glad that you're online too. We're going to give everyone a second to join. There's no one here yet, but no pressure. Where are y'all? Just kidding. They'll be here in a minute. We'll give everybody a second. If you would care to donate, you can do that through our website. It'll take you to PayPal. We have a Linktree website too, joshuageneration.rocks. We have one person. Good. Okay, we'll take that as a sign to start. We have our circle sacred guidelines, and really truly I'm joking because I'm a little nervous, but I am grateful for your presence here and for the opportunity to begin a conversation and to share, and I hope that each of you will feel free to share as well. Our guidelines are as follows: speak from your heart, listen from your heart, speak from your own lived experience, try not to assume others have had the same experience that you've had. Make room for the quieter voices and introverts. So those little pauses are okay sometimes, you know. If you've already shared, please make space for others in the group to share. If you have asked for advice and there are responses, you're welcome to set a boundary by letting the group know that you've taken in the responses shared and you like to move to the next person sharing. We're not here to push an agenda. We are here to share and discuss and not necessarily agree, which is great. There will be no shaming, interrupting, or condemning language or behavior allowed. Anyone's welcome to facilitate a weekly discussion, and if that's something you want to do, you can let BB know or me know, or we'll talk about that. So, before we get going, I would like to pray, if that's all right. Lord, Father, Mother, Spirit, God, thank you for today. Thank you for the precious gift of life, and most of all for the gift of love and the gift of connection with you, with ourselves, with one another. Help us to honor ourselves and one another and you as we share tonight. Lead and guide and open our understanding, open our hearts, and help us to leave better than we came. In Jesus' name, amen. And I pray in Jesus' name, but I don't mean to exclude anyone who feels differently. That's just me. So,
You want me to get that out of your one?
Sure. Or it's something to fidget with. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So tonight I would like to share with you something that came to me as a gift from the universe a long time ago. It's been over a year, I'm certain, or close to it anyway, that I don't have her permission, but a friend of mine, I'll say someone I respect very much, gave me a box of books that she had gone through and cleaned out her personal library. And one of the books in that collection, she let me go through them, and she asked me to donate them for her after I got done taking what I wanted, right? So one of the books that I kept was called Beyond Fear by Don Miguel Ruiz. And on the front of it, it says he's the author of the 4 Agreements. And one of the books in the box was the 5th Agreement, right? So naturally I went looking for the 4 Agreements. But I brought Beyond Fear to read a few quotes out of it tonight, but I have the introduction from the 4 Agreements and a little story that's at the beginning of it that if you'll allow me, I'd like to share with you. I thought maybe I would kind of talk and tell you about it for 5 or 10 minutes, if that's palatable, and then we can just talk and take it where it goes. Is that good? Okay. All right, don't go to sleep, but if you do, we'll wake you up. Okay. So the 4 Agreements was really about becoming free. I think that this beginning story sort of sets the tone, and it's from the introduction. So here we go. It's called The Smoky Mirror. It says, 3,000 years ago, there was a human just like you and me who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. This person was studying to become a medicine man, to learn the knowledge of his ancestors, but he didn't completely agree with everything he was learning. In his heart, he felt there must be something more. And one day, as he slept in a cave, he dreamed that he saw his own body sleeping. He came out of the cave on the night of the new moon. The sky was clear, and he could see millions of stars. Then something happened inside of him that transformed his life forever. He looked at his hands, and he felt his body, and he heard his own voice say, "I am made of light. I am made of stars. He looked at the stars again and he realized it's not the stars that create light, but rather light that creates the stars. Everything's made of light, he said, and the space in between is empty. And he knew that everything that exists is one living being, and that light is the messenger of life because it is alive and contains all information. Then he realized that although he was made of stars, he was not those stars. I'm in between the stars, he thought. So he called the stars, I think I'm going to say this right, Tonal, and the light between the stars, the Nagual. And he knew that what created the harmony in space between the two is life or intent. Without life, these two things could not exist. Life is the force of the absolute, the supreme, the creator who creates everything. And this right here is what he discovered. Everything in existence is a manifestation of the one living being we call God. Everything is God. And he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. Perception is light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror. Everything is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light. And the world of illusion, the dream, is just like smoke, which doesn't allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love, pure light, he said. This realization changed his life, and once he knew what he really was, he looked around at other humans and the rest of nature, and he was amazed at what he saw. He saw himself in everything, in every human and animal and tree, water, rain, clouds, earth, and he saw that everything combines to create billions of manifestations of life. Welcome. And he comprehended everything in those moments, and he was so excited. I'm going to paraphrase because I want to move on. He wanted to share this with the people back in his, village, but no one could understand him when he tried to explain it. So he could understand them and see them, but they did not understand him. So they believed that he was an incarnation of God, and he smiled when he heard this and said, "It's true, I am God, but you are also God. We are the same, you and I. We are images of light. We are God," but the people still didn't understand him. He had discovered that he was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror in which he could see himself. Everyone is a mirror, he said. He saw himself in everyone, but nobody saw him as themselves. And he realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness, without knowing what they really are. They couldn't see him because there was a fog or smoke between the mirrors. And the wall of fog was made by the interpretation of images of light, the dream of humans. So there are mirrors, everybody, right? And there's fog, and so nothing can be perceived, even though the reflection is there, right? Then, we're almost done here, bear with me. Then he knew that he would soon forget all that he had learned. He wanted to remember all these visions, so he decided to call himself the Smoky Mirror. I love that. So that he would always know that matter is a mirror, and the smoke in between is what keeps us from knowing what we are. He said, "I'm the smoky mirror because I'm looking at myself in all of you, but we don't recognize each other because of the smoke in between us. The smoke is the dream, and the mirror is you, the dreamer." So thank you for letting me share that. So what he discovered was, even though the capacity for perception and connection is there, we're separated by the illusion of the dreams that separate us, the fog, what he called the dream. And the 4 agreements goes into that. And I'll tell you that he talks in the introduction about how all of society is a collective dream. The government, religions, our families, expectations. And so we're born into this process of being domesticated into society, right? And there are positive reinforcements and negative reinforcements for all punishments, rewards, all these things. And we are conditioned into these agreements. And we make these agreements with parents and teachers and religious leaders and siblings and eventually spouses and our own children and bosses and everyone else. And the book is about taking our power back, waking up from the dream, and becoming aware, taking an inventory of our agreements, and realizing that we can break any of them that we want to. We can be free from any of them that we want to. We're all dreaming, and so we can come into a knowing of these agreements and break the ones that harm us and don't serve us. And then part of that process, there was a question in the book I wanted to, you ever read something like a little one-liner and it went straight to your heart?
Yes.
This is one of those. It said, what do I believe that makes me suffer? What do I believe that makes me suffer? These agreements are beliefs, and he goes in the book talking about how that is really faith. You know, those agreements they evolve into our system of faith. And so what do I believe that makes me suffer? And so doing my best to paraphrase, but I hope that someday you'll give this book a chance and read it yourself. It's a short read, but a powerful read. So he then goes into 4 chapters of 4 basic agreements. Like once we start breaking down or acknowledging the ones that don't serve us, we can make 4 basic agreements. And I say basic, maybe generic. They are deep and profound agreements, but they are simple to state. How about that? The first one is be impeccable with your word. And the word impeccable, he talks about this in the book. The root meaning is without sin, impeccable, without sin. And the idea and the concept of sin is not in the traditional, Southern Bible Belt church. It is anything that is done that harms the self or others, right? It's anything that's harmful, anything against the self, that's dishonest with the true nature of who we are, anything that's not loving. So that's my translation. That's the first agreement, is be impeccable with your word. And it also, he goes into great detail explaining the power of our words and how it's magic, and we can do good or evil with our words. And we choose, how we build and how we manifest, and our words affect people, and they affect environments, and we speak our whole life, into being. Creation. If you read the Bible story, sound was the catalyst for creation. Anyway, be impeccable with your word, and it also, you could talk about in there saying what you mean and meaning what you say. It's about clear communication. So then the next agreement is don't take anything personally. And I find myself going back to these, and I've revisited this recently, because if I find myself with my feelings hurt or offended or upset about something, ego is, out of balance, and I'm taking something personally. And the idea behind this one is other people's actions or decisions most of the time have nothing to do with us. It's their dream, it's their story, it's their trauma, it's whatever they're going through. And even if it did have something, it doesn't matter. It's their journey, It's not ours. So don't take anything personally. And the third one is don't make assumptions. And we do this when we think that don't take anything personally kind of leads right into that. We can assume that someone's motives are, not good, or they're about us, or they're after us. But making assumptions is also could tie back into a lack of communication, right? If we think we know what someone means, rather than ask, we assume, and then we create this drama in our mind that doesn't even really exist, We create this story, we weave.
Scenario, yes.
Yeah, and it's not even real. So the best thing to do is not to assume, is to ask for clear communication and understanding. And flip side of that, he points out in the book, is that people have the right to ask us questions too. We are okay to ask and not assume, but it's okay for others to ask us too. And the last one is always do your best. And with the understanding in that our best varies from moment to moment, day to day, but to just always do our best, and that leaves no room for regret or guilt or shame. And even if we have those feelings creeping up, it's to clear the slate, clean the slate, and start over with the agreements. If we cling to things like that, we're making an agreement that, I deserve to be punished because I didn't do this right, and that's an agreement. We want to break that. So I don't know if that was a good synopsis or not, but it's an incredible book. He's a powerful author, and it's from the Toltec tradition, which is not necessarily one society, but rather a spiritual path, a group of people who had reached a sense of enlightenment, following along these kinds of guidelines. So I have some other things highlighted in this book, but I'll leave it be. I think Spirit led me to say what was needed, and I'll be happy to open it up if you have any comments or feedback, or if you want to talk about something else.
He said, and I was listening to it last night because there's a link. I put it in the discussion about.
Oh, thank you.
It's the
wrong way.
audiobook, correct?
Oh, we got to flip. I'm sorry. I'm not
No,
technology.
you just turn
Oh,
it
just
around.
turn this way?
Yeah.
And just tell me.
other way. Oh yeah, that way. That's right.
I'll keep
That
going.
works. There you go. Hey guys.
Is that right? Okay,
Yes,
good.
that's it.
Damn it.
I'll flip it next time. I was trying to do a flip, but.
No, I was like,
Well, what you want me to do different?
he said something about our word is magic,
Yes.
and when we use it negatively, it becomes black magic.
That's correct.
And which was interesting. I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. It becomes, harmful or hurtful in any way, hurtful to ourselves, which oftentimes our dialogue in our head is very hurtful, to ourselves. We haven't healed from things. And then of course we turn it on others. And yeah, that was really an interesting quote that I got in the first little, I guess it was the very beginning that I was listening to when he said that, but I thought that was interesting.
Thank you, baby.
And he says, hold on, let's see. I just saw another thing. Anyway, keep going. Anybody else? I'm looking at the some quotes out of the book here. Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. If others tell us something, we make assumptions. You just read that, yeah. Okay, keep going. I'm just repeating what you're saying.
It's all good. Anyone else? I know I threw a lot at y'all. Here, let me turn this around. May I? Here. Let me try this again. There we are. Yes, it was a lot.
It was. It was. I am thinking, okay, the smoke and mirrors thing.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It was, and it ties back to something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is this idea of like we're not meant to improve ourselves and become the person we're supposed to be. We're supposed to uncover the person that we've always been.
Yes.
And I know that's the entire point of it, but that's such a cool way to put it.
I love it.
And I've always been fascinated with the ideas of like other people are a mirror of us. So whether you like what you see or you don't like what you see, it's like they're reflecting something about something from you back to you.
They're teachers. And we're teachers, and that's what you have to remember. Not only are other people teachers to us, every moment is a teachable moment for us if we're just watching and paying attention and aware, but we're also teaching others, and we're always a lesson. So what kind of lessons? And being aware of that, I'm not only all of you are teachers to me right now in this moment, but I'm also a teacher to you without saying a word, or with being a magician in a good way or negative way. But yeah, we have to think about that. So it's just another interesting thing. And you said something. What did you say? Thinking. And I'm reading the book right now. I'm reading The Power of Now, and thinking is the big problem. Basically, our thinking is the problem, and we are identified with our thinking. And when you identify with your thinking, you're completely separated from your true self.
Yep.
Good. Move on.
Anyone else? Oh yeah, comments. Let's see. Oh, you got them over there. Hello. Okay. I don't know what to do with the camera. I'll put it back on you, BB.
So why don't you take each of the 4 agreements and maybe each one be a point of talking.
Okay, I thought, okay, that's a good idea. I kind of was trying to think about the best way to do it, so we could go back through them individually and discuss
and just
them.
kind of have a discussion of what anybody has.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Let me see if there's a passage in here that we could refer to. Would that be helpful, maybe? So,
or just the sentence of what the agreement is, and then we bring in our own. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to flip this back around and give you all a break. Okay. We'll share the burden. Hi. Okay. So the first, thank you. That's a great idea. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And we talked about how the word impeccable means without sin, meaning not doing something against oneself or against others or against the divine, which are really all one. We're all God. That was the smoky mirror story, right? So be impeccable with your word. It says this agreement has deep meaning and it can take you out of hell almost by itself. The word is the strongest expression of the Spirit. The word is the most powerful tool we have as a human. It is divine, is pure magic, pure power. Say only what you mean. And it goes into, gossip and, things like this, blackmail, blame.
Well, I thought
please.
about the, 1 Corinthians 13, where it talks about the definition of love.
Yes.
So love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. So it seems like that kind of first agreement kind of embodies the whole true essence of what love is and all the qualities in regards to that.
That's good.
And when we use our words against someone or ourselves, it's because we have something that we don't love in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we want someone else to feel how we feel. We want to project that onto them. And obviously that's not love. It's not coming from a place of love. So whatever's coming out of your mouth is what is in your heart. I mean, that's what, I don't remember the scripture, but out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Right.
It's probably a proverb, I don't know. But that's just, and that's why you have to think before you speak, because if you think before you speak with that in mind, oh shit, what's going on in here? Because I really just want to, word vomit on somebody.
Right.
What's going on here? And, and we have to remember we're talking to God.
Oh, all the time.
When I talk to you, I talk to you, talk to you. That's the true Trinity. God, other, self. That's the real Trinity.
We just live in a culture right now where everything is so volatile and combative, where it's hard to even just engage in dialogue without, depending on where you're stepping, is a landmine ready to explode.
Right. And when we get so offended, when we get angry, all those things, it's when we're operating out of ego anyway.
Right.
That's correct.
That's not a place of love anyway.
And there's an agreement somewhere at the root of it that we made. Maybe we were a kid when we made it, but there's some belief in there that's it's about fear or insecurity or control or something at the root of it.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. And it says speak gossip about others. I'm reading the be impeccable with your words, speak with integrity. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. And the Bible talks about that too, calls it witchcraft. And I talk about that all the time, and I don't, of course I don't find it witchcraft. But when it's used against somebody, it's when it becomes evil.
That's right.
And when you gossip about someone, and I tell people ask me about the little evil eyes all the time because we sell them here in the shop, and they're like, what are these for? And I'm like, well, let me explain that to you. Because when you talk about someone negatively and you are speaking, you are putting magic, power. It is powerful. Your words are powerful. And when you speak against somebody, it is like, the only word I know to use when I'm explaining is like hexing someone. And, that's the truth.
But the problem is that the negativity hooks you into that person.
Yeah.
So then whatever you're speaking is coming back.
It's a circle. You create a circuit because You're not only doing it to them, you're doing it to yourself.
Right.
So it's like a vicious circle. Okay. Moving on.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone want to say anything else about that one?
I do have something. I was
Yeah.
thinking about what you said about mentioning like the love is patient, love is kind, that verse. And then like the other week we were talking about I am and how God is love, we are God, and I have it's not turned around. This little bead necklace, it's an affirmation that says I am love.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I made it the day that we had the I am talk a couple weeks ago, which is just real weird. But you know, whatever. Whatever. No, just thinking about that, like we are God, and therefore we are love. And so I'm thinking about that verse, and it's like not only is that what love is, but that is also like the standard we should hold ourselves to. Like we're meant to be like an embodiment of love because we are an embodiment of God.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cheyenne.
But I mean, how difficult is it to achieve unconditional love?
I think it also, talking about like not speaking ill against other people, it really is a reflection of how like it's so much easier to not speak ill of other people, and like I know like it's difficult sometimes, but what is harder than that is not speaking that way to ourselves. Because you were talking about like people projecting. I think when people are unkind, like you said, it's because they're feeling that way toward themselves, and they don't want to be alone in that feeling.
Right.
And it's not just like out of a desire to make other people hurt, but it is just hard to be alone in whatever we're feeling. So it's easier when you know like someone else is feeling that too. And obviously like there are like situations like this where like, you know, it's in a positive way where we know like we're not alone in those feelings, but when we don't have that, it turns into something like much more malicious, which is really sad to think about. Like,
And when we say those things about other people, it's because we see that in ourselves that we don't like, and then it's almost like we're punishing that part of ourselves by projecting it onto someone else without actually acknowledging it in ourselves. And that way we can deny it and point a finger. That's why most of the homophobic people that are so violent and homophobic are little gay.
True story.
That's the best example I could come up with at the moment. You know what I mean?
This is so off topic, but I mean, if y'all haven't seen it, there's about to be I think it's in August, it's coming out on Netflix, a documentary called Pray Away, and it's the leaders, like the ex-leaders of the ex-gay movement, talking about exactly that. How like they spent so long doing so much harm to other people, because in reality, like it was harm they were doing to themselves.
It's like, what were they called back in the day when they used to beat themselves and walk down the street and beating themselves with whips and stuff? What is it called?
The self-flagellating.
And that's the visual idea.
Right.
That they were trying to be like Jesus. They were beating themselves with whips and things like that. It's kind of the same thing, only you don't really have to feel the pain because you're hitting someone else that has been emotionally pain. Okay. Damn. Keep going.
So what's the second assumption?
Okay. I was trying to find the right breath of pause to not rush, but yeah, no, we're good. I don't know where it is. I was like, okay, where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right. You're good. All right. No, please don't be sorry. You're good. I was like, is it time? Oh, it's time. Oh, me. All right. We're having a good time here. Okay. Number 2 is don't take anything personally. It says...
I'm sorry. I just kind of thought that's what Daryl just did.
Oh, I was like... I got it now. I was thinking, oh shit, did I do it? Okay, no. Okay. Don't make assumptions. Don't that's it. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So don't take anything personally. It says we take everything personally when our own personal importance leads us to make the assumption that whatever happens is because of us, which is why we continue to hurt each other and brood about what we call injustice.
Brood. What a good word.
Yep.
We just hover on it. Just sit on it and just
Yep.
Yeah. Make it.
Play it over and over again.
Yeah, it just grows and grows and develops into, develops into a chicken. Because a chicken.
That's
Oh my goodness, that was tonight.
Oh no.
Yeah. And taking things personally is something I struggle with.
Yes.
Think about how pissed off we get when somebody else, like we do something unassuming and then somebody else takes it personally. Fuck, man, like that, it's not about you. It's not about you. Let me have my own problem. Like it's about me. But then when other people do stuff, we take it personally because it must be about us. Because everything revolves around us.
Right. The universe and everything.
Yeah, of course.
I take a lot. This is one of my. But
Mm-hmm.
I take a lot of things very personally.
And that's why it's really hard to try to not stay neutral or not get emotionally involved, because when people make comments for it, when you don't take it personal, it's like, okay, well then you don't really believe what they're saying. But when you do take it personally, there's a part of you, even a small part of you, that believes
thinks
that's
it's
true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Your own insecurities, your deep-rooted insecurities.
Right, and that's what
the
hooks
beliefs.
into all
Mhm.
those fields.
Yeah, all those belief systems
Right.
that are filed in there, and the subconscious, which Bonnie teaches us about, and it's all there for it's there.
Right.
And if it weren't there, you wouldn't take it personally. It wouldn't even affect you. It would just roll off your back.
Right.
So there's something there, and if we will, again, we're talking about teachers. We're all teachers. They're all moments, and these people, if they say something that causes you to take something personally, pause and say, "Why am I taking this so personally?"
Right.
It's easy to just go, run down the rabbit hole and thinking, and it just triggers. It's like a trigger. It triggers something deep.
Yes.
What do I believe makes me suffer? I'm sorry. Excuse
What
me.
do I believe it makes me think? Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I apologize. I didn't realize you were still talking.
No,
I'm sorry.
you're good. Don't apologize. We're gonna have a whole new building with this apology jar. We have created an apology jar every time you're
But I broke the rule. I interrupted you.
But
Yeah.
Buddha says that enlightenment is simply the end of suffering. Correct? I mean,
Right.
and so that would mean that the light has shone on every area of our lives, and when the light shines on every area, whenever the light shines on something, it becomes light, right? Or, yeah.
Revealed. Yeah.
Yes.
The light's revealed. It's good. Thank you.
And psychology words, there's a term that's called egocentric bias, and it's actually normal development for children. That's when a lot of times kids will always go, mine, right? That's like normal development for kids. But if something happens, if you grow up in a dysfunctional home or alcoholic, drug addicted, or highly stressed home, and there's like trauma or whatever, then if the world evolves, like here's a child, here's a universe in the world, and the universe in the world evolves around the child, then whose fault is it? In their mind, with normal development. Somehow they've assumed guilt and responsibility for everything that's going on. And so there's a lot of stuff from our childhood that could have been swallowed. I know for me, I swallowed a lot of that guilt because I assumed I was responsible for what happened here and here without, or even having all the information. I just felt it and picked it up, so I think that that's probably one of the struggles of not taking things personal, is somehow getting in touch with that part of you that assumed responsibility from your childhood.
And it turns into a belief.
Right.
When you have that belief, it creates responses and reactions, and that's goes all the way back to that place. And really, I mean, in reality, tell me if I'm wrong, but most of our beliefs are created as children.
Right.
And we don't have the ability to process that stuff. We don't have the ability, the brain capacity to truly understand what's happening. And, you know, we as adults, and I'm bad about this with Stella, I just, you know, I'm starting to realize that I talk to her like she's an adult, you know, and I pick on her and say things jokingly, like, you're so goofy and things like that. I don't know how she's processing that.
Right.
I don't know if she has the ability to understand humor, you know, but what if she takes that personally and,
Mhm.
you know, it kind of becomes a, you know, because God knows she falls down every, you know, maybe it's, you know, I may be messing with you. But, you know, and that's, you know, Bonnie talks about that too. We create these belief systems, and that's the files that we have in
Mhm.
and we go in, and that's what we go back to. Not what we were taught as, you know, older people.
Right.
No, you're great. So, you know, we were on that Unword series for a long time, BB, with Sunday stuff we did a while back. And if I had to come up with an unword for tonight, it was going to be unlearning. Because we had, like you were saying, uncovering all that stuff. But
We're
we
talking about my bread and butter because I
Yeah.
know my friends are sick of me. Because it's shadow work. That is what this is. You were talking about like shine the light on like the dark places in us, and then like talking about like it's all these things we learned as a kid, and in the spiritual witchy woo term, it's shadow work. Like that's where I started with like my practicing with everything. Was with that, was learning how to like unravel these like the beliefs that I have now and like the things that affected me back to that moment, like when did I learn this? Like, and the wild part is a lot of it I did to myself.
Yes.
There were moments that it's like that's not how, like it wasn't anybody else, it wasn't my fault either, but it's still like it's moments where like you walk out on yourself and your own needs, and then from there you believe that you don't deserve the care that you didn't get in that moment.
But I mean, did that start there, or did that start before that? Because oftentimes we can't remember when we learned that, because it's just always been a part of our lives. So it's just like, okay, it's you don't remember, you know, and so it just creates a belief system, which creates responses.
It does, and it's like for me, like I've got a journal full. I can talk for a full meeting about shadow work because I'm the head of marketing for shadow work in my friend group. I'm telling you, they're sick and tired. But it works. But no, it really is about like even if you can't remember like the first moment that you had this self-limiting belief or it's like a core belief, whatever you want to call it, because it's just different names for the same thing. Going back, like it's not about the moment, but it's like the moment that the first time you remember feeling that way, and it's like whether it's like you felt like either you believe like, oh, I'm inherently a bad person, I'm inherently unworthy of love, like I'm inherently incapable of love. That's a doozy. It is. But like going back to that moment and like that, I feel like that's a lot of like the work of like adulthood because I'm a new adult. It's been like having to teach like reparenting yourself. That's big too.
Yeah.
I think we should do work and reparenting. I think that would be good. I think that would be a good time.
I agree with that.
But yeah, no, but that's really what.
Absolutely.
What'd you say, Britt?
Even growing up, experiences shape how you think. Also.
Absolutely.
Well, societal norms, all of those things. What school you go to, what tax brackets you fall into creates, you know, belief systems about yourself. And that's, I think school's the most traumatic thing anybody gets to, and it happens to any of us, can be the most traumatic. I mean, it's terrible. People are, kids are the worst. Yes. They're mean and nasty and mean, yes. But now they're projecting too. They go to school and they're, you know, so.
That's right.
But not always. Just the kids. But.
Well, it's part of the process, and I've not finished this book, Beyond Fear, but I will. But part of it talks about things that you were speaking about, Cheyenne, and things that all of you've said are brought up in this book. They talk about the process of inventorying the agreements and going within and doing the beliefs. Yeah, so it's this same process, different labels, but
12-step program.
the collective dream that has been created by everyone's individual agreements and all this society. That's why the kids are sometimes mean. They're conditioned to be, and it talks about how the domestication of humans, that process becomes like, it's almost self-maintaining, right? Like a baby is born now and it's just like automatic. Everybody, teaches the baby how to function in this dream that we've all bought into. But do we like this dream? Do we like everything about it? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. What is it? Okay.
I had kind of a weird experience, and it's kind of following through with what you were saying, is that I had a person that would have these strong thoughts and feelings about things and terrible, horrible events, and she had no personal memory of it. And then what was interesting is that her mom was in concentration camps, but mom would never talk about any of it. So then finally she got the courage to tell her about these things that she was experiencing and everything, and the mom had said that was her experience, the exact experience. So, which leads me to believe that maybe some traumas are passed through the DNA, and that we are a collective catch basin of our parents' traumas that maybe we didn't ever experience, but it was passed on through the DNA and through whatever, maybe developing our shadow part of us, where we're like, where did this come from? But maybe it's through history. I don't know.
And that's interesting. That goes down to nurture or nature.
Right.
That's very interesting. I mean, we are all one. We're one. We're one. We're all connected, and that's very interesting. We can be that connected.
Right.
Without hearing a single word, or a single story, but we are experiencing it and having the dreams and having the memories, and that's really interesting. Very, very interesting. And looking at it like that and understanding that our hurts are someone else's hurts, whether we intend them to be or not.
Right.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. Malia said, yes, reparenting, finding that childlike joy again. Life is a series of learning and unlearning.
Thank you, Malia. All right, where were we? Was it number 3? Don't make assumptions. Y'all ready to move to that one? And it ties in really closely with don't take anything personally, because we're making an assumption when we take things personally. But don't make assumptions. It says, here, let me give you all a break from the camera. We'll share give each other a break. Hi. Okay. Don't make assumptions. We make an assumption if we think that others know what we mean or that we know what others mean. We have to have the courage to ask the other what he or she means or what they want, and the courage to say what we really want. Without assumptions, there is nothing to make you frustrated, and there is no one to blame. You owe nothing to life, and it owes you nothing. Yeah, no one to blame. Oh.
I don't like that at all.
Not a bit happy with that. Let's go.
I'll just take the first 2, thanks.
Let's move to number 4.
Oh.
3 minutes.
Okay.
No, this is probably the source of mine and Susan's. Like any issue we have, and this is on me, and I'm owning it. She'll say something or do something like, and I'll pop off, and she's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I know what you meant. I know what you meant." She's like, "What did I say?" Oh, I'm the worst about assuming what because I just do. It's awful. It's terrible.
We think we know that other person better than they know themselves.
Yes, it makes an ass out of you and me. Yeah.
What'd you say, Jay?
I said we
go ahead.
think that we know that person better than they know themselves.
Ooh,
Because
yes.
Good.
Damn.
We think we're mind readers, and we are just not.
Psychic.
No,
no, we do, and you're right. That is exactly it. And Yes, that's exactly right.
And Britt, what did you say? Excuse me, I think I missed you too.
I just say, you know what they say about assumptions.
Oh, yes.
Ass out of you.
Every time.
It's true. But I'm bad about it, and I've got to.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm gonna tattoo these on my arm.
You got any room?
Under my hand.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, yeah.
Please. You can raise your hand.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I think that what you said also kind of falls under I read something a few months ago that said there's an ask culture and a guess culture. And I'm definitely like an asker. I ask everyone, like, what do you mean? What do you want? What do you need? And then I tell them what I need, but everyone is not capable of that. They weren't raised that way. They don't react that way.
Wow.
Good point.
And it's really deep with the people that you're around. If you look at it, it's crazy. You're like, why don't you just ask for what you need? And I think that was the question that I asked someone was why don't you just ask for what you need? How do you work through life? And they're like, well, I guess, I just guess what everyone wants and what everyone needs. I don't go with it.
Wow, the assumption.
The assumption, it's crazy.
That's
Well,
true.
as kids,
Thank
we
you very
were
much.
as kids as when I was a kid. So we're going way back. When I was a kid, we were taught that children should be seen and not heard.
Yes.
So children did not ask questions. You did not question an adult. You did not become a part of the conversation. And I think you're talking to Stella like she's a human being. You're not talking to her any differently than you would talk to any other human being. And I'm not so sure that there's anything wrong with that. I do the same thing to Buddy. I talk to him like he's a person and not like he's a little kid, because I want him to be able to ask me things, and I want to, I would love to be, I'm not the kind of person who asks. I'm not. I'm the guesser. I'm that culture, unfortunately. And I maybe, you always want to teach your kids better than what you had, or you want to give them better than what you had. And I'm trying to give those things to Buddy and give him that opportunity to know you don't have to be afraid of an adult. You need to ask for what you want, or you need to ask for, or ask somebody, what do they mean by that? Are you kidding? What do you mean by that? I can't even imagine that. But it's such a different, it's such a different generation gap. It's such a gap. So anyway.
I think that, and then making the assumptions, it's interesting, but we make assumptions, we don't ask.
Right.
And it generates passive aggressive behavior.
Oh yeah.
Because so I need you to do something that I'm afraid to tell you. Or I don't want to tell you.
You're right.
So I'm going to be passive aggressive and kind of try to push you to do it. And that's that communication break right there.
When you say that to Susan, like, I know what did you mean by that? I know what you meant by that. I do the same thing with Carrie, always, and it's because I feel like I want her to get to the truth that I already know. You see what I'm saying?
Our wives
like,
do a little
it's
word.
like, yes.
Mine does not post this. Maybe they're not watching the live.
Maybe it's the wrong button.
But it's like, I want you to be truthful. Will you just be truthful? I know what you meant by that.
But if
So-
they say it, you're the victim.
Exactly.
Oh,
Is
yes.
that where we are?
Oh my God.
But
I
yeah,
hate this book.
I hate number 3. Weren't we there?
Right.
Number 3 is bad. I think everybody does okay with 1 and 2. They skip 3, go straight to 4, and then you're right back where you started. We're right back to number 1.
Watch, rinse, repeat.
Yes.
Askers and guessers. Wow.
Askers and guessers. I like that. It makes perfect sense.
Thank you all so much for the feedback and conversation. Thank you all. If it's okay, we'll move to the 4th one now, and we'll
Yes.
we'll lick our wounds and limp out of here with my bruised
We've
ego.
said-
I'll be
we've
back
said
next
enough.
week.
We have incriminated ourselves quite enough.
It says, always do your best.
Oh, I just did.
When we always do our best, we avoid self-condemnation and we rarely become frustrated. When we're sick or tired, our best will be different from when we're well. Our best is always changing, but we continue to do our best. When we're fresh and healthy, our best is still always changing. And if we do our best under any circumstances, we'll feel good about ourselves. In the inventory process, you go into your mind and explore your belief system and find the agreements you have made and break them one by one. It takes courage to go into the dream. Always do your best.
What if your best is never good enough?
Perfect.
What is
There's
good
always
enough?
potential for more.
Okay, I have a counterpoint. Okay.
Point counter.
I have a counterpoint. Okay, at what point does it stop becoming our best and it starts becoming us like overextending ourselves because we're trying to be perfect? Like I think there's a limit to our best. I do. I think it's like after a certain point, like it's like your best is almost in the middle, where there's like, okay, you're not doing what you could, and then you're doing more than what you should, and kind of in between that, that's your best quality of whether it's like whatever contribution it is, whatever you're doing, it's sort of in the middle.
I swear, I think that's in the book. I think that's in the book.
Is it?
I think that's in the book.
Yeah.
To you, and personally to me, like what if I'm doing my best, but it doesn't feel like it's enough?
It doesn't feel like I'm meeting my expectations and other people's expectations.
Expectations.
You're assuming what their expectations are, though.
Oh no, I'm told.
Oh.
Oh!
Well,
Oh,
just
well.
like that one.
It goes back to how you feel about yourself, like what you think about yourself, because you just have to be okay with it. I did the best I could do. You're okay with it. You did all you can do. What else can you do?
And that's good. Expectations. We've been talking a lot about expectations. And I think even the Buddha said the source of my misery is expectations. And not just expectations of others, expectations of ourselves. And it's that, attachment to these things that really cause us.
I have nobody in this room is gonna like what I'm about to say, because it's about perfectionism.
You can leave now.
I've said enough.
I'm just kidding. Totally.
It's all good.
Okay, so the interesting thing about like perfectionism is that it is a form of self-harm, because it is impossible to be perfect.
Correct.
So by setting that unattainable standard, in your head that you can't achieve that. So you set yourself up for this inevitable disappointment in yourself, and this inevitable, like, whether it's like however you react to that, usually it's not good. You set yourself up to be able to punish yourself for an expectation that you can't meet.
Right.
And I will.
I'm sorry, go ahead. It kind of goes to the end of that. It's like, do your best and simply do your best and
Do your best.
don't and avoid judgment, self-judgment and criticism. Do your best without judging yourself and criticizing yourself, which you have to do, I suppose, without an expectation.
And it comes from that fear and that perfectionism. You're afraid, oh, I'm not good enough, I have to do this, or they won't love me, or I have to do this, or, it's
Goes back to number two,
fear-based.
taking things personally. So if they're all just so connected. They're all
Looking
one.
at your beliefs, when did I learn this? When did I decide, oh, if I don't achieve this, then I'm not loved, or
I'll be rejected.
Well, the confusion
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The confusion would be is that they say hindsight's 20/20 vision, right?
Right.
So you can always look at the, what you coulda, shoulda, woulda done. And so I don't think that I don't think I could ever say that I did my best on anything, which is sad if you think about it. But I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of look, because I always could, hindsight's 20/20 vision. I could always think of what could have been done to improve. So.
But you also have to consider what your best in that moment was, and have grace for the past version of yourself.
That's it.
what I was thinking.
Right.
Because you then didn't know what you know now.
Right.
So you would have been physically incapable. Like, it would have been impossible for you to do better than you did, because you just didn't have that knowledge. And that's not
Those are
your fault.
strong words.
Right.
Those are strong words.
Yes.
Very powerful.
Right.
Well, I think, and that goes back to living in the moment. If you do these, if you follow these 4 agreements in the moment, you don't go back to the past and you don't worry about the future. You're just in that moment and you're doing your best in that moment and you're not just in that moment. And that's the truth.
Yep.
It's that simple and that
Yeah.
difficult. Not going back, not going forward, living in the moment. Whether the moment is timeless. I think there's not. It's timeless.
I would definitely say that, like, for me, I've had to, I guess, unlearn a lot of things, and like you said, your best is sometimes just your middle ground. I constantly have to work on reminding myself that, I'm just a person. I can only do so many things, that don't overextend yourself. But definitely, like, that belief, or what did you call it, the commitment that you made to yourself without really knowing that you did it.
Yeah. Agreement.
Agreement?
Yes.
The agreement that you made with yourself. Sometimes you have to rework that agreement, maybe every few months, every few days, so that you remember that your best is your middle ground.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. I agree.
I think with Jenny, what Jenny said about the trying to be a perfectionist, maybe, or the thinking that your best isn't good enough, maybe by what others have said or told you. Like for me, always pushing myself to do more for my family, because I grew up in that dysfunctional, alcoholic, abusive, whatever situation. It became necessary, especially being the oldest, it became very necessary for me to strive for perfection and to make sure that I was always doing more than what anyone else was doing, because that was gonna hold us together. That was gonna make us a family again. And so taking on that type of burden. Now, fast forward to therapy and adulthood and reparenting myself as best that I could. When you don't have an example of how to reparent or parent, no offense, parents, because my mom might watch this.
Love you, Miss Betsy.
Love you, Mom. And Pops is listening already, so
Don't take
can't
it
help
personal.
him. But so when I finally maybe realized that I was doing that the best that I could at the moment that it was occurring, when I finally realized that you put more on yourself by getting to that point, because then you almost feel the disappointment from the others, and that's not fair to yourself, because I was sitting there going, oh well, I'm okay with this now that I'm not busting my ass for everybody else, and I'm trying to do something for myself, and I got this, what's wrong with you? Well, how come you're not doing these things anymore? Are you okay? Well, yeah, I'm great. How are you? You need to start doing you now, because I'm doing me. And you end up, it is a bad cycle, because then I got to thinking, oh, everyone's disappointed in me now, because I'm trying to do something different for me. And in doing that for me, maybe I became perfect in my own self at that point. Maybe that's when I shined a little light on me and I became a star. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Because I know what it's like to try to have to make everything right for everybody else, and try to do better for everyone else. And I still do that. I still find myself, and then I'll throw up my hands and I'll pull a number 3, and I'll say, I'm so tired of doing everything all by myself, or something like that, or so.
I want to read a quote.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling and finding it. God is life. God is life in action. The best way to say I love you, God, is to live your life doing your best. The best way to say thank you, God, is by letting go of the past and living in the present moment, right here and now. Whatever life takes away from you, let it go. When you surrender and let go of the past, you allow yourself to be fully alive in the moment. Letting go of the past means you can enjoy the dream that is happening right now. Every human is an artist. The dream of your life is to make beautiful art. Cool. And you were just saying, and then I go back to, I'm just so tired of doing it, and that's because we're keeping a checklist.
Because we're keeping it, yes.
Because we're living in the past.
Right.
And we get historical.
Yes, we do. Yes. I get
We
very
get historical. What? I know what you meant. That's why I know what Susan meant, because I'm being historical instead of...
Because you had a file on that, and you put it in that file.
Secret files that Susan what she really means.
Right, right.
Oh my God.
I bet her files thicker. Yeah, probably her files thicker.
I know Carrie's got one that's thicker.
So, and that's it, living in the moment, and that's interesting because it's tying on into what I'm listening to right now.
Wow.
The moment, it's all we have. I think about all the clocks, all my clocks, and none of them work.
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me that there's time that's an illusion. Live right now. It doesn't matter what happened 10 minutes ago. It doesn't matter what happens 10 minutes from now. It's what's going on.
I can't remember sometimes what happened 10 minutes ago.
And that
might be
could be helpful. Except for that file.
Right.
Okay, I can read it.
Yes.
We got notes. Yeah. Keep going. I'm good.
Yeah,
It's good.
I like that quote,
I'm
though.
terrible.
I like
I'm a
that.
terrible person.
No.
I have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of shadow work.
We all do. It's part of the process.
Yes.
I want the Reiki principles. This kind of puts me in
Yes.
mind of Reiki. The Reiki principles. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will do my work honestly and do my best, and I'll be kind and loving to every living thing. Just for today, you don't say I'm going to be this and this. Just for now, just for today. And if we'll keep that in the front of our mind, just for this moment, just for today, it'll keep us.
Sometimes it's just for this minute.
Yeah,
That's
just for the moment. Yeah,
Keep that, maintain it.
right.
Is that not an agreement though?
Yeah,
I don't know anything about Reiki, but is that not an agreement?
It is.
Like,
It's exactly an agreement.
100%. And and when you get in those moments where you are overwhelmed, in those moments where you want to get angry, you pause and say, just for today. Because you can't, just for right now, just in this moment, I'm going to be kind to everything. I'm not going to cut you.
right now.
I'm not going to cut you right now.
Just for
Just for
today. But you go back to what Cheyenne said, and if you're living in the moment, you're not in the past, you're not in the present, right? So you're not doing your worst, you're not being a perfectionist, you're middle ground. And if we can kind of stay that path,
The Tao.
yes.
Now.
I was just gonna say, you just stay that path and just
Hold to the center.
hold to the center. Hold to the center, people.
Thank you, Jack.
Yes. So anyway, it's cool. Very cool.
Thank you all. Anybody else? Good talk.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Very good.
Anything else online? Anybody said anything you want to read?
Nancy said, let go of the past, you can have a bright future. And just a few things. Malia said it catches a lot of people off guard when they're asked, what do you need? They don't know. I don't know. They say, how can I help you?
I don't know. Yeah, this is
I have a
true.
plan, but I have no idea how to. Yeah.
But if you really loved me, you would know.
Yeah. No kidding. Wow.
That's one of load up my shred.
Talk about manipulative. Yeah.
Yes.
You should know me better than
Yes.
Right.
I'm going home to the shredder. I'm shredding.
Don't you know?
There's legitimately a passage in the book about that very thing
Oh,
in
is it?
relationships.
I'm
with
pretty
people.
sure I apologized to Carrie today for that exact thing that happened last night.
Oh,
The exact
thing.
thing.
That's funny.
That was my problem. And I said, I am very sorry. Do you forgive me? So
Right.
I knew that my file rushed
Right.
over. My file fell out of the cabinet and I tripped over it
Oop.
And read it out
and
loud.
read it out loud. Yeah, for real.
That was great, Holly.
Yeah, thank y'all.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
do I need to do anything on your phone when we just the button? I don't know what to
Put
do.
it on me.
All right. So we're gonna call it a night. Thank you all for being here and for your comments and participation. And I hope that this blesses us all.
We'll be here next week at
Yep.
6:30, same place, same time.
See y'all next Thursday. Bye.